Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing. As always, I'm your co-host, the Balanced Blue RJ, returning after a solid few days of a not so well-earned break, but one nonetheless. Proud to be back, happy to be back. We'll have lots to unpack, of course. Scott, Robbie, always a pleasure to have you guys join the trio. Scott, I'll go to you first. How you going, my man?
Yeah, doing well, mate. Doing well. I mean, besides the result, everything else been pretty schmick. So looking forward to jumping in, boys.
I'm sure we're gonna unpack all of that, Scott. But Robbie, how are you, legend?
I'm feeling great, mate. To be honest, just good to be with you three lads here. Great to be here. And let's get into it.
Absolutely. It's good to have us all united, some will say. Okay, last pun for now. Last pun for now. But in all seriousness, we've got lots to go through. Obviously, United, Chelsea, the ramifications of that. Toon toppling Spurs. Great result for all of us, bar Marty. Sorry, Marty, but don't worry, mate. I'm sure you'll bounce back in due course. Forest, absolutely shocking the footballing community with their massive victory over the recently resurgent Reds. And of course, a few other major headlines that are championing the weekend's games. So, Scott, without further ado, my man.
Yeah, let's jump straight into it, boys. I think for me, the biggest shock this weekend was that Forest result because you had Liverpool taking points from City, doing a madness, and then just getting done by Forest, which no one predicted. No one predicted. Find me the man or lady who honestly thought that result was coming, and I'll show you a liar. Unreal. The Reds were hapless, and to me, I don't think, and I don't know if you boys agree, I wouldn't call this a fluke result. I actually thought Forest played some decent football, played some good moments, and I thought Liverpool were quite poor. Big problems there, but you speak to most Liverpool fans, and none of them will say that I'm coming across anyway, that Klopp should be under pressure, which to me stuns me because they're now, I think it's 14 points behind us. It's crazy times. Robbie, you must be loving it, mate.
Yeah, look, I didn't even catch the game, so when I seen the result, I literally had to. I did have a few too many on Saturday night at my sister-in-law's 30th, but I wasn't seeing double when I seen 1-0 to Forest. But yeah, look, again, as just a few of us after Champions League and after a Champions League win, off a City win, everyone's like, they're back. Mo Salah is back to who he is, and after scoring 4 goals the other day, whatever it is, mate, against cellar dwellers, Forest that I really am struggling. That is a very, very big shock, man, when I seen the result. So yeah, like I said, I didn't get to see the actual performance, but again, just 1-0 kind of tells me what kind of game it was.
RJ, try and put yourself in the shoes of a Liverpool fan. I know it's not fun to do, but I'm stunned by how many are still saying, no, Klopp is still our guy, no pressure on Klopp. Can you see where they're coming from, or do you think it's time to have, not time to sack him, but time to start maybe amping up the pressure on him?
Yeah, I hear you. So, two things. So, firstly, your comment about I wasn't shocked by the result because of the way the game panned out. I agree with that. But I would still say I'm still shocked based on before the game, based on how Forest have been all season and just how recently resurgent Liverpool have been. So, it's massive on that scale. So, who would have saw that coming? Like you said, basically nobody. In terms of putting myself in a Liverpool fan's shoes, the reality is, I think we've all got to understand the recent history of Liverpool. For years, they've had basically living off the fumes of their history. Then this guy's come in. It's taken years for them to build their dynasty, their 1 year in one title in 30 years. But the reality is they've become a really top club again because they've backed him. They've stayed patient. So it'd be a little bit negligent to all of a sudden turn on him the first sort of obstacle he has to overcome. So I can definitely understand the loyalty card because he has got a lot of credibility. Let's be real. They're one of the best teams in the world when they're playing confidently. So to throw the, toys out of the pram, as they say, might be a little bit premature. But I think there should be a little bit of pressure on him, absolutely, a little bit, rather than just getting too comfortable with Klopp.
The gents in the live chat, obviously a very Man United heavy live chat, loving what's going on with Liverpool at the moment. Declared, saying we need a Liverpool rep. Look, Maybe we can rope Cat into coming on again in the future. We'll have to suss that out. Emad saying there's not enough excuses to cover Liverpool. This is a really good point from Tom. Klopp shouldn't be under pressure from the board because of what he's done. However, the media should be interrogating him like they did with Ten Hag after 2 losses. I do wonder if they were interrogating Ten Hag because he's new and he doesn't have the credit in the bank that maybe Jurgen Klopp does. Not saying it's fair, not saying I agree. I think everyone should be accountable. So, yeah, Emad agreeing with Tom and Marty as well. Good to see Marty in here. Speaking of Marty, boys, we know his team, Tottenham Hotspur. Whew, look, this wasn't the shock that obviously Forest and Liverpool was, because we know that Newcastle are building something under Eddie Howe, under their new owners, with their fans. There's something happening at Newcastle, and this was a big result for them. 3 big points to put in the bank. Great for our clubs because Spurs dropped points. Happy days all around with this result. Robbie, are you surprised with the result, or did you think Newcastle, could take this one?
No, look, I'll be lying if I said I'm surprised, because Newcastle have been going up and up and up a gear every week, it feels like. And like I said, the table doesn't lie. Yes, they've played 12 games, but they're in the top 4 as we currently speak. And that is a major achievement for them, considering the other big boys are around. But I think, yeah, look, I watched how they played with us 2 weeks ago, and they really went toe-to-toe with us. So to go to Tottenham Hotspurs, they haven't lost at home all year, and to win, there might have been a little controversial with the first goal, but look, they got the points at the end of the day. That's massive for them, mate. And like I said, 2 losses in a row for Spurs, on the other hand, is I'm not going to say worrying signs, because I was actually listening to a segment the other day on TalkSport saying how crazy reactionary people are these days. Like, look, I'm not going to say because I'm a Conte fan, but Spurs people already calling up and saying Conte out. Like, he's still 3rd at the moment. This is the best start for Spurs in decades, but because it's had 2 continuous losses, and yes, he struggled against the big boys, Chelsea, obviously Newcastle now, and United.
Probably the football too, Robbie. They've been
I agree with that, but we had this conversation last week against results and performance. He's still 3rd on the table regardless, and if he continued and got top 4 and 3rd all year the way he's playing, some people say yes, some people say no, but I just think it's crazy after 2 losses that people are screaming out Conte out now after their best ever start. So look, I'm not on Spurs' side there, but I just think in general the conversation is why are people so reactionary these days. This is why we see so much big overturn in managers. A couple of bad results, bang, out the door.
Fair enough, RJ.
Such a congested table, though, because, United win their next game, Chelsea win their next game, they're 6th potentially. So 3rd to 6th, all of a sudden it's, Conte's been getting results. We're not getting results, and we're not playing good football. So both sides of the equation are wrong here. So, but I'm with you, Rob, on this, in the sense that, and probably the root cause behind it is social media, in terms of the acceleration 100%. Of how reactionary people can be. It's like there's no concept of patience. And ironically, coming from a Chelsea fan, I know, but the idea, you lose a couple games, you're under pressure. You win a couple games, you're back in a title race. It's just ridiculous, to be frank. But I don't know, boys. I think there's not worrying signs, but there's something definitely bubbling beneath the surface based on the way that they're playing and managing to get their results based on shaky performances. Like, there's got to be something more to it than just scraping by and getting a result. So we'll see how long it lasts.
We'll have to see, boys. But you know what? And this is the Arsenal fan in me. Conte is one manager I don't feel sorry for when fans are being overreactionary, because we saw him do it. He spat the dummy, had his big public blow up after a couple of bad results. So, Spurs fans haven't won anything in a long time. They know, and this isn't me taking the piss, they've got a lot of really good players. They've got Harry Kane in there, who is world class. They've got Son, who can be a top player. And we saw the signings they made last season. They've got a very, very good squad. So I think the expectation at Tottenham Hotspur is just a little bit higher at the moment than previous seasons. It's a congested table. It's a tight league. But what we do know is that anyone and everyone can take points from their opponents. And we saw that with my team. Speaking about not being reactionary, we had a really disappointing 1-1 draw against Southampton. For me, watching this in that first half, we played really good attacking football. We did literally everything except put about 6 goals in the back of the net. I was watching thinking, this might be Southampton's annual 9-0. But we didn't kill the game. And that's probably been a criticism of us in recent weeks. We're doing a lot of things really well, but we're just not getting that ball in the back of the net. I'm not panicking about it. I'm not saying that we need to chuck players under the bus. But certainly a problem for Arteta, that clinical, that lack of clinicism, that snuck in last season and hurt us. I do also think our bench is amongst the weakest, if not the weakest of all the top teams. So we just need to be cautious that we don't let this be anything more than a little blip. I'm hoping we bounce straight back against, of course, Forest, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. What did you make of it, RJ? Because we were awful in that first half, but Southampton, to their credit, played some really good football in the second half and were by far the better team.
They have the ability, Southampton. We know this. We've said this many, many times on the show. Go back and have a look. They're a team, they're such a rocks and diamonds in terms of when they're on, mate, they can mix it with the best. They're high-energy football. They play some really attractive style of play, and they can really put it on opponents when they get their rhythm. But the flip side is when they're not on their game and they concede a goal because they're too high up the pitch, all bets are off for them, and they can get hammered pretty easily. That was just one of those games where they found a bit of a sweet spot. They were able to be resilient, hold you guys off because, like you said, you had the Chelsea conversion problem.
And dominate us in that second half.
All they had, that's it. They have that ability. It's not a shock in the sense that they've got the ability to do so because they've shown it time and time again. So, look, it was probably a fair result over the 90 minutes.
Yep.
But Arsenal will rue that. And look, will it lead to more systemic problems down the track? He's hoping, but look, too early to say. But yeah, it's 2 points definitely dropped for Arsenal.
I look then at that table. I see Arsenal on 28 points, City on 26. Man, you just get a little bit
Every
more
point
nervous.
counts, mate. Every point counts.
4 points. The 4 points were nice. Look, I mean, Sparks in the chat, he's bringing up a good point about the fact that it did almost resemble a WWE match. I thought we had an excellent penalty shout that was overturned. I thought, actually, sorry, not overturned, not given. I thought we deserved a penalty. There was more contact than a Sonny Bill Williams shoulder charge. But as we've seen, it's going to happen to every team this season. We're all going to have our share of calls.
Well, even Callum Wilson, you saw the bump he had into Lloris. Personally speaking, I thought that was a fair call. Like, it can happen. I can see how it could be given, but it's good to see when players don't get rewarded for just expecting it to be given. So that's a nice thing to see.
Robbie, what do you make of this comment before you give us your views on the game? Second half was terrible. Do you think players are scared of getting injured, especially since Arsenal got kicked off the park? Do you think a month out from a World Cup, some players, I'm not just talking at Arsenal, but in other teams, might be just maybe playing a little bit within themselves to make sure that they're going to Qatar? Or do you think, no, once they walk on that pitch, it's all on?
Look, personally for me, I think it's always in the back of their head, but I don't think any player would or should hold back when they go out. I think their club just is, that's the main priority right now until it hits that international break in World Cup time. And look, I think if anything, they're probably trying to play just as hard so they can get selected to be on the plane to represent their country. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a lousy excuse, but that's just my opinion.
Fair enough. Look, I want to shout out a couple of other results before we talk about your match. We saw Leicester resurgent, some happier times, beating Wolves 4-0, but Wolves are absolutely dreadful. I find them one of the hardest teams to watch in this league. Aston Villa 4-0 over Brentford, and we'll obviously get to Villa very soon. We had the Hammers this morning for 2-0 win. Everton 3-0 over Palace. Frankie best Patrick
Super
Vieira.
goals there, Scott. I'm going to
Yeah.
pump his tyres a little bit. That third goal in particular.
Mate, I'm sure
was
you've been waiting all week to do it.
Speaking of goals, did you guys see that Tillemans shot?
Wow.
Wow, that's got to be goal of the week, surely this week, man.
It's going to be hard to best that, I think, definitely.
Yeah.
And boys, of course, we did see as well in there, where was it? Man City beating Brighton 3-1. They played really well. They did what you expect from Man City, and it's just an absolute shock whenever they don't come back with 3 points.
I will say, Brighton, new manager, there is something there. They are playing good football. This guy here, he will help them. I saw some good signs in that match, and give it a time, like Potter, which we'll talk a little bit about. But I think they won't feel the effect of losing Potter too much now that they've got this guy coming in, because I can already start seeing some good football that they are playing. It'll just take them a bit of time.
Yeah,
I agree. Let's jump to your match, gents. Casemiro saves the day, spares your blushes. I'm going to let you boys duke it out, and then I'll put my views in at the end. Robbie, let's start with you, mate. What did you make of it? Because I actually thought United were the better team.
Yeah, look, I think you had it right. Obviously, me and RJ haven't really talked about it the whole weekend till now, so it'll be good to hear what he says. But look, I think first half, I was actually surprised. We went there with a bit of the same attitude coming off the back of our Spurs win, and we never really do that when we go to the bridge. I thought majority of the first half we dominated the game. We held possession. We were working the goalkeeper. Again, we didn't have our shooting boots on, because I did think we could have had a possibility of going into halftime at least one, possibly two. I think the best chance was right on halftime when Anthony obviously put it past just wide of the sticks. But look, I think as I was saying to RJ before, when they did make the tactical substitution, I think it was about the 35th minute, and who was it? Kovacic came in, Arj. I think that was that's when the game kind of changed a little bit, because we were completely on top until that point. Second half, I did feel Chelsea did come right back into the thing. Obviously, they had their chance. I think it was Chalobah maybe that hit the crossbar off the header. But look, obviously, I'm going to give my quick 2 cents. I think it was a penalty. I'm going to say right now, I think it was stupid from McTominay, came into the pitch. When again, I thought we had really good performance throughout that. If we were to lose from that penalty, from him being on the pitch and a stupid foul with 5 minutes to go, that would have really been a knife to the heart. And yeah, Casemiro, who has really stepped up in it, especially the last 2 games, Tottenham and Chelsea. It was nice to see him get his first goal for the club, and a very important saviour to rescue a point, because I definitely feel better getting a point out of that, because I personally think we deserve something out of that performance.
All right, RJ, obviously going to come to you, but can you just make sure in your answer for me, can you touch on this incident? Because I didn't watch this whole match, so I didn't see this incident about when Varane was injured, which doesn't shock me, and being booed and thrown some abuse. Justin saying that's certainly not a football thing, but obviously with your thoughts on the game, but if you can weave that in too.
Sure. Yeah, and I agree largely with what Rob's saying. We weren't in it the first half hour. Like, we were conceding. There was a midfield dominance from United because of the 3v2 situation, which they utilised. They were pinning our wing-backs back. Cucurella, he was the one who made way for Kovacic, which instantly brought about a bit more balance in that midfield area, which is where we were getting ripped apart. And we were finding some openings without the real crystal clear opportunities. It's one of those situations, again, like the Brentford result, where we struggled to find our shooting boots, which I do think is a little bit of a symptom of us, not the fatigue factor, because we're all playing 3 days a week, but I think it's because Graham Potter still is trying to tinker a lot with the lineup, and obviously Reece James, our best player, he hasn't found a solution since losing him. So I think we're still very much trying to work out how to get around that. But the second half, I felt it was pretty evenly fought. It wasn't the best game to watch, if I'm honest. It was tactical, very defensive from both teams. I kind of felt like
No one wanted to lose.
Yeah, I felt like United had more to gain from not losing, whereas Potter, as long as that we didn't ship a couple goals, and we're very close to not conceding for a sixth game in a row, which would have been unbelievable. But the penalty, yeah, it is what it is. It's a penalty. It's a stupid. He's holding on to him clearly, and it wasn't like he was at the near post and the ball went to the far post. He was in striking range of getting to the ball. What's he thinking? And I know Mark Goldbridge and a few others come out and say, "Oh, if you're going to give that, you've got to give it to others." Absolutely, they should be giving them when they are obvious. Give them the penalty. It's not like it is black and white.
Don't we, boys? How many times have we said it?
That's all we want, man. And if it happened the other way, of course, I wouldn't like it. But that's just how it is. And it was a nice penalty. Jorginho, big up, big occasion, stepped up, slotted it home. But that injury to Varane, it was very unfortunate because it was a simple ball played in and he goes down. And to Justin's point, look, there are going to be pockets of fans that do it because, you can't control everybody. You're going to get some morons here and there, and that's how it is. But if we're also being balanced, we also got pockets of some fans in the ground that were apparently making homophobic comments, and Chelsea came out making a statement saying that's not good enough and we're going to investigate it. And that's definitely not a football thing either. So the long and short of it is a club can only control so much, and you can't prevent these incidents from every single fan. So, look, it is what it is. Great header, Casemiro at the end. I thought Kepa... He saved it, the ball.
Man, how close?
Did it cross? I know it did. I know. They showed it after the match that the ball crossed the line just. But I thought, it doesn't look like it based on the angles. But, hey, that's what Hawkeye's for. And I just felt sorry for him because the guy's been on fire lately. He's been saving us. He's been outperforming his XG stats incredibly. But the amount of abuse he copped after the game is truly baffling because I said, Mendy would have saved it because he's taller and Kepa's not a
Mendy would have conceded 15 before he saved that one.
But here's the logic. People are saying it's not Kepa's fault. He's not tall enough to be a professional goalkeeper. It's like, wow, that is such a very funny statement to make. Like, comes out with that. But see, it was a really good fingertip reaction. And his starting position was really good because if he doesn't stand where he stands, he leaves the near post open and everyone's going to question his starting position. Yeah. It's just a great looping header. And it's unfortunate that he couldn't save it. He did everything to save it, but he didn't. So just accept it because there was one segment, Scott, and Robbie will recall it, because he played like a bit of a sweeper-keeper. He had a nice little exchange between him, Thiago Silva, and Kovacic, I think. They played their way out of United's press. And that's because Kepa has better ball control and short passing than what Mendy has. But people only criticise because he let the goal in at the end. So I felt very slack for Kepa, but that's how it goes.
I want to ask you, we've had this theme around Manchester United in terms of being clinical. There's a certain GOAT who obviously, I'm not saying he should have played this game. I actually agree with how Ten Hag handled it. I think he put the club first, and I'm cool with that. But do you think as the season goes on, and Tom's asked, specifically you in the chat, RJ, do you think as the season goes on, United are going to find a way to integrate Ronaldo in, who is, I still think, if I had to pick one of their players in their whole team to be on the end of a chance in the 90th minute, I would still make him the guy. But do you think, RJ, they're going to be able to weave him in? And who would you rather, as a Chelsea fan, have played up front against you, Rashford or Ronaldo?
Yeah, look, definitely if, like I said, you're chasing a goal and someone in the box, Ronaldo. But I think Rashford offers a lot more in terms of the pace and the counter-attacking threat and the different type of ability. Now, look, I still have so much respect for what Ronaldo does, but I just think now his time's done at United, man. I think he should go, respect him, respect his legacy, and just get out, man, because it's just not working for him there. And, yeah, to be honest, he's not happy. And that's just how it goes. I know Chelsea are still rumoured to get him, and it could look very silly for me if he comes in and starts scoring. And that could happen. But I just, for whatever it is, he's getting a bit older now, whatever. But he's just not the same Ronaldo that he was even a year ago. But that's just my opinion.
Well said, Robbie. Did you want to add anything on that before we move on?
No, look, I nearly agree. I'm the one every weekend. I say we are a better team this season with Ronaldo not starting anyway. I'm more than happy if he's happy enough to, play his part in the team, if that's off the bench or, playing cup games, starting cup games, just being a part of a squad and showing his experience and professionalism, then I'm happy to have him. But right now, going forward, he's gonna go with the young fellas. You got Anthony, you got Sancho, you got Rashford. When Martial's fit, again, they all start. Possibly, as we said the other day, Anthony Elanga came on the Spurs game in front of him. I just think that we've got to continue to look for the future. And like I said, I think there's always a space, and there's definitely always going to be room for Ronaldo to give us a help this year through injuries, for experience, through anything. But as long as he just shows his professionalism and when he's called upon, does the right thing, then I'm all for it.
Me personally, if I'm a United fan, I still would much rather him start over Rashford. I don't think Rashford's that finisher that he should have been. I don't know why he never hit that potential. I don't know if the media...
He's a winger. He's not a number 9. He's a winger. That's it.
And what about all the noise? What about all the noise with Ronaldo, Scott? Would you still take him now, knowing that he's not fully focused on the playing side?
We don't know the full story, boys. I think for me, it comes down to how disruptive an influence he's being at Manchester United. Now, if it was really just that kind of one outburst about not coming on, I think he's such a good player that you kind of forgive, forget, move on. But if it's more of that, and you do honestly think that he is the man to pile all the blame on for some of the performances when he plays, then don't bring him back in. But I just feel he gets lumped with the bulk of the blame when they lose, when there's a lot of players in that team who haven't necessarily hit the form.
But they look very, very well without him. I think it's fair to say it. They are playing collectively a lot stronger when he's not there, whether that's just because of him or just coincidence, but they just seem to be gelling. So
time will see. I'm curious to see what Ten Hag does. I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does. So, and apparently talk of Rashford to Arsenal, absolutely not. Don't want him.
Straight swap for Saka, Scott?
Yeah, no, that they can keep him, mate. I wouldn't give them a pair of Saka's boots for Rashford.
Who's talking about that? I have not heard that. Could not see that.
I haven't heard that either, Sparks. You're going to have to shoot me a source to that.
He's our correspondent, man. He's our correspondent.
That's it. A man on the ground. Okay, let's quickly talk about Unai Emery, a man I know quite well because he managed my club. Was unfairly sacked, if you ask me. Wasn't given the time or backing that I think he deserved, a manager of his experience. And we've seen him do good things. He is the king of the Europa League. Did a great job with Villarreal last season. At the moment, Villarreal was sitting 7th in La Liga. And now he's come and taken what I think, and I know this is a bit of a controversial take. Robbie and I have had a little bit of a chat about this. I'm not leaving Villarreal for Aston Villa. You're coming to a bigger league, but you're coming to a club that, for me, is in shambles. Aston Villa, all over the place. They've got a squad that just doesn't work. Plenty of quality players in there, but nowhere near a quality team. And I don't think his style of football is going to bring that free-flowing, attacking football that Aston Villa fans are expecting out of their players. I don't think this is a good match. I think he'd do well for a team like Spurs or a more defensively minded team, but I think this is a poison chalice to come back with Aston Villa, who are in a precarious position on the table and have a whole bunch of pressure. I'd have stayed in Spain personally. But Robbie, I know you think this is a good move for him. Talk to us about why this is a good move for Emery.
Look, I just straight off the bat, it's a bigger club. Aston Villa is a way bigger club than Villa. He's coming again. He's returning to the Premier League again, the best league in the world. I'm sure dollars signs have a big say in this as well. I'm sure it was $6 million just to buy him off Villarreal, so I'd love to see the pay packet behind it. But look, I do agree with the point you said with his style of play, because he does play a very defensive way. And look, you said that Aston Villa haven't got a good team. I think there is
good players, not a good team.
Yes, yeah. I think that there's a lot of.
That's where the manager helps, though, Scott.
Yes, I think there's a lot of individual quality in that team spread out, and I think Stevie G wasn't getting the best out of that team. I don't know if he had enough time to, but look, we've seen on the weekend just when they can turn it on, like that came out of nowhere. They were like 3-4 nil up after half an hour last week, right? So, look again, I don't see his style going with those attacking players, but he's one of those guys that can, with a bit of time, he can build up a team, get a system happening. He might be able to build on their defense first and use the attacking players. I just think that he'll definitely improve. I think he'll improve this Villa team, especially where Stevie G had him. I think he'll go up. I don't know how much, but I don't think it's such a terrible move. And again, it's definitely not a step backwards in my opinion.
RJ, where are you at? I mean, he's left European football with Villarreal. He's left a club where he did win the Europa League, and a team that I think had a squad better suited to his style. Tom did make a good point about money, and I agree. He's probably getting very handsomely paid to come to Aston Villa. But again, just feels like a poison chalice to me. What do you reckon, RJ?
Well, I think you got to put yourself in his shoes again. It's just, I think he's got unfinished business in the Premier League. You don't always get the opportunity. Sometimes you've got to be brave and bold enough to step in the poison chalice seat, so to speak, and give it a shot and back yourself. Done some good things over in Villarreal, but now some would say he's going to the real Villa. So switched him around and he's at Aston Villa. And I think with the players that he's got at his disposal, he's shown ability to galvanise a team and really put a structure in place to make them difficult to break down. So whether or not that's going to sit well with Villa fans who are looking to play more of an expansive style of football, he's definitely going to give you a little bit more structure and a bit more resilience. So maybe he's been brought in to help steady the ship, similar to Tuchel in a sense, where come in, galvanise that squad, make them more structured and rigid at the back, and really bank on those more attacking-based players to really hit teams on the break and just, hopefully be able to get a few wins and build a bit of momentum and then see where you go from that point onward. I'm not sure if he was the first choice. I'd have to leverage off the live chat if they've got the knowledge, but I think they could have done a lot worse with this deal.
Oh, yeah, I think he's a good manager. I think it's a bad call from him. But
it's a risk. It's definitely a risk, but it's one that might have a good reward, I might say.
High risk, high reward, though. We know that the Premier League chews and spits out managers very, very quickly. I even had a bit of a smirk at you using Thomas Tuchel, who I think a lot of us thought was going to be this long-term guy at Chelsea. I did. And
he was long-term.
For Chelsea, anyway. It's a Chelsea thing. All right. Before we move on, make sure you smash the likes up as well. Let's at least get it into double digits. Boys, Champions League coming up over the next couple of days. Any matches that are standing out for you? Obviously, your team's playing, RJ. But is there anything that you quickly want to touch on because that match stands out for you? We've got these ones coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Obviously, our game, massive interest there. If we get this one right and we qualify, essentially, it's all on the line there, and hopefully lock in that top spot. That will obviously alleviate pressure in a league where we're stuttering, obviously, not playing brilliantly, but are showing enough resolve. So, huge match in that context. In terms of other matches I'm looking forward to.
The group is very open, RJ. Your group.
Is.
I mean,
back-to-back wins against Milan changed it for us. Yeah.
You're on 7 points. Salzburg are on 6. Mm-hmm. Then Milan and Zagreb both on 4. So this is actually one of the more interesting groups in terms of the formation of the table. So looking forward to seeing what happens there. What match were you about to mention next?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I'm quite keen, obviously, to see on City Dortmund naturally.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know what, low key, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I know it won't be the same as Rob. He's got a clear favourite. But the Leipzig Real Madrid game, I think that'll be low key very interesting. Different types of teams. Real Madrid defending champions. Keen to see maybe even my old mate Big Timo. He might step up and shock the reigning champions.
Mm. Will Ange get his first win in the Champions League, Robbie?
No.
Oh, jeez. No hope. You're not going to give me any hope whatsoever.
Oh, you've said that every game this week. I think it's a bit disrespectful to Shakhtar. Like, I know we're all Aussie fans and we're all Celtic fans because of Ange, but Shakhtar's no pushover team either, you know. And when they turn up, you know, they give Real Madrid a good run on their day as well. Look, I really hope for him. It would be nice to get a point on
win.
I'd love to see him win or get something, but I don't even think, regardless of their results, I don't even think they can drop down to Europa.
They can, but they're going to need a miracle.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I'd love to see it, and but Shakhtar's not a pushover. It's not like looking at them like, they should just do them kind of thing. Obviously, for me, I'm going to be and look, I think the Dortmund game and City game is the one I'd like to. You know, if Dortmund win that, they peg back City level points. Yep. So that's interesting. That's not a full cut conclusion there, especially in Dortmund. And look, Juventus, this is pretty much a do or die for them. They have to go away and win this game for any chance, because there is a possibility if they do win, PSG, look, I dare say they should smack this team and they'll top the group regardless. So they could maybe rest players on the last day when Juve got to play them. And there is a possibility always they will end up in Europa League as well. But I guess that's about it. I think we've pretty much gone through most of them. But
Scott, what do you boys think though? Will Lionel Messi get to his 20th goal contribution against in this match day?
Be hard not to in that team.
Yeah, I agree. No, look, I think Messi's doing okay this year.
The attack's doing very well, I think.
Yeah, and like I said, like everyone was like, "Who's this manager?" Look, he's steadying the ship good, man. Like he's controlling all those egos better than anyone at the moment.
Okay, and then this is the next match day fixtures. Napoli should beat Rangers. You bet your mortgage on it, and then that solidifies top of the group for them. I'm pretty sure. So, no, it doesn't solidify, but it makes it look a hell of a lot more likely. They're currently sitting top with 12 points, Liverpool behind in 9. So we know that it's Napoli and Liverpool going through, barring some kind of miracle.
Napoli tops the group because they beat them home and away.
That's right. So exciting times for Napoli, and they're playing some good football, repping the City very
most
well.
Attacking team in Europe, I'd say. Most entertaining to watch.
Playing great football. So over on there, of course, Barcelona Bayern is going to draw people in. Barca can still get out of this group. I really don't want them dropping into the Europa League. Call me selfish, but I'm hoping they can beat Bayern. I wouldn't mind seeing them lose.
It's not going to happen. Not happening either. I agree with RJ. It's not happening.
Inter, obviously, they're my team in Italy. They played the most memorable match in Champions League in group stages for a very, very long time, and they really should have beat them last match had they been a little bit more clinical right at the end. Great goalkeeping. But now they've left the door slightly ajar for Barca's unlikely, get out of jail. So I don't know how many more levers they've got left, but hopefully they run out very shortly.
Very good. And Marty pointing out in the chat that he thinks Spurs will qualify this week. All they've got to do is beat Sporting, and that's locked in. It's a lock. I do think they'll beat Sporting. That Conte should get the team up for this, particularly after some disappointing results. I just think they have too much individual quality for Sporting. Anyone disagree, boys, or you think Spurs are through?
Conte's he's cursed in Champions League, mate. We all know that. For Inter, for Juventus, he's not got a good record in the Champions League. So I wouldn't say this is a full cut conclusion either, mate. If they turn up in the way Spurs have been playing, I could easily see a draw or something here as well.
I think they'll get through though. I think that curse will be broken, but we'll see.
All right, we have covered Premier League action, Champions League action. We've talked about the man who is Unai Emery, and now we get to the point of the show where we're going to look at some quickfires, boys. I must confess, I've been terrible. I haven't got any organised, but I'm hoping one of you or both of you do.
I've been sacked the last couple, but I've actually got one that'll probably cover us. It's a little bit long. It's a bit of a trivia one, so feel free for the chat might have to get involved here because it's a little bit long. But name the 9 Australians with over 5 Premier League goals. So 5
Okay.
Australians that have scored over 5 Premier League goals.
We're doing this together, RJ and
Yep. I've got my list, so I can tick them off as we go.
So
Tim
of all
Cahill.
time, yeah, go. Harry Kewell.
Yep, Kill.
Viduka.
Yep. Viduka, correct.
The midfielder from Crystal Palace. What's his name?
Jednak.
Jednak, Mille. Yeah.
I'll give you that one. Yep.
I do wonder if Lucas Neal hit 5 in all those years at West Ham.
He did.
We're going him. Okay. Live chat, feel free to help us out. We've got a few there.
Timmy Cahill, he's on the list.
Brett Emerson.
Yeah, good
one,
shout.
Ahmad. That's
Yeah,
six.
man.
Emerton, yep. We've got one.
Is Aaron Moy? Aaron Moy or
Yeah.
no?
Aaron
Yes.
Moy's on the list, yep.
We got 2 more.
2 more.
Just trying to think. Come on.
Give us a
help
clue,
out.
Rob. Got a clue. Come on.
Can maybe-
one RJ, one he scored one of the most Australian famous goals ever. Oh,
John,
he's-
no.
You're talking about
sorry.
Johnny
Just
Aloisi didn't play in the Premier
No,
League.
no.
Yeah, Aloisi is on the list.
Is he?
Is he?
Yeah,
There you
Port-
go.
So I was thinking that, but then I thought, nah, surely not.
I forgot that he played at Portsmouth. He certainly
Portsmouth.
did.
And the last one I'll give you was Lazaridis.
Stan Lazaridis.
He played at
Wow.
Birmingham. That's right. He
Yeah.
was Birmingham boy.
So yeah, I was just trying to, like I said, I've been bad the last few weeks, so I thought I'd have a look. I did have another one, but it's up to you guys if you want to read it out. I'm sure I did have another one. Oh yeah, this
Do it,
one's a
Robbie.
quick one. 3 players have been sent off in the UEFA Champions League final. Can you name them?
Jens Lehmann.
Yep, that's one against Arsenal. The
Good
Arsenal
time.
Barcelona
Burnt
game.
into my
time.
soul.
Chelsea. RJ should know one of these ones.
Oh, leave me alone. Leave him alone. The whole match was cancelled. Didier Drogba, obviously.
Yep, correct. And I'll enter the last
King
one.
Drogba.
And the last one
Henry's
was
understudy.
Juan Cuadrado for Juventus against Real Madrid in 2017.
There you go.
Mm.
There we
Okay,
go,
well
boys.
done, Robbie. I enjoyed them. What do you
Good
got
questions.
for us, RJ?
Just the one, and it drew a bit of discussion, we'll call it, in this group chat that I was reading, and it was fair. It was fair on both sides. My question is scalping for a profit a football thing?
Nah, it's a scumbag thing, mate.
Okay, you agree?
Yeah, scalping purely for a profit. I mean, if you have to offload something and it's not a friend of yours and there's a real good reason, okay to make a few bucks, but mate, deliberately doing it. The tickets over there for Premier League matches are mental.
I agree in terms of, and Robbie, you said the same as Scott.
Yeah, I agree as well, man.
Yeah, because I was chatting this earlier, and I thought, yeah, definitely should look after your fellow football fan. You pay £60, you sell it for £60, but what happens if Scott and Rob both offer me more than that? What if they offer me £100? Like, should I take it? Should I exactly like? Is it a fair selling system if people are genuinely willing to pay you more? So does it come down to motivation, circumstance? What is it?
Intent. Yeah. Did you buy it to scalp it?
Or
did you buy it because you wanted to use it, but there's a genuine reason you can't go? So,
yeah. Well, Emad's saying it's no longer scalping then. Yeah, I agree. So it comes down to intent then. I'm with you, boys. You shouldn't buy it unless you've got intent to go in the first place.
Spot on. Well, the boys are agreeing, and we are also back on Thursday evening. We will be previewing and predicting the next round of Premier League fixtures. So until then, enjoy your Champions League football, your Europa League football, all sorts of football that will be coming your way. Look after yourselves and have a good evening.
Ciao.